never fully understood what it meant to have empathy, what it really meant to have the ability of understanding and sharing the feelings of another person. Even with such a simple definition that was easy to comprehend, I always failed to properly use the word and always got it confused with sympathy. There was a limit to how far I was able to absorb the concept of the word with simply context, and the definition was too vague to truly shape what empathy was. There was a lot more complexity to the act of putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and its capabilities of changing the perspective and attitude towards another. Complexity that cannot be expressed by words alone, and it was something that I wasn't able to understand and realize until I grew out of the shonen world. Kyoto Animation took me into a new world of anime, a world that impacted me in an unexpected way, and for the first time, it felt genuine. Kyoani is known for taking on stories that hold sentimental and emotional value, and there's something about the way Kyoani delivers anime adaptation that really touches the human heart. They are able to reveal the human emotions and visualize it into frames of the animation. Through cinematography and music, they are able to bring out the worth of human emotions, and at times even without words. Experiencing some of the few works of Kyoani from Violet Evergarden, Clannad, and A Silent Voice, the anime movie that allowed me to find my own voice. I can say that Kyoani draws those incomprehensible feelings that we often struggle to express in a way that feels possible, a kind of narrative that feels real.
Violet, 君は生きて自由になりなさい。心から愛してる。
At the end of her given purpose, she hangs on to her major's last words, with only knowing the inhumanity of war, an underlying task of finding her own value and purpose driven by his last words. Violet Evergarden explores the virtue of human interaction and what it means to love. Opening a new chapter in her life, Violet is given an opportunity to fit into modern society, but with unrecognized emotions and sins, many problems awaited. Things that often come natural to the human nature was abnormal for Violet. Sarcasm, contradictions, empathy, feelings of emotional complexity were confusing to her. Understandings that needed human interactions were never needed before. It was never needed to follow someone else. And without realization, she suppressed those emotions before even recognizing them. The only link that she had to them was Major Gilbert. He was the only person to genuinely want to treat her as a human and wanted to free Violet from the suppression that was binded on her human soul. But he knew that he too was the cause of her repression. Perhaps it was guilt from the many sins that he brought upon her, or realization that it was necessary to give her an enigma in order to open her curiosity and guiding Violet to make her own choices. Though those little moments they had together were brief, they were the only moments Violet truly remembered. And for the first time, driven by those feelings, and without any orders, she willingly took her own first steps in the hopes of understanding this person's farewell. It was only the beginning of her blossoming. Violet Evergarden's way of handling the importance of a letter shows how there's only so much emotional value that you can express in words. With minor details left out, it can easily change the meaning of the message. At first, Violet symbolizes as a typewriter, with only serving the purpose of expressing the words of the client, but that defied the purpose of an auto memory doll. An auto memory doll is there to express the feelings that weigh those words, and tries to manipulate those words in a way that reflects what the client truly wants to say. Words only hold value if we give meaning to them, but to Violet, words were nothing but a way of communication, a way that didn't need personal feelings and emotional awareness. But in order to fulfill the job of an auto memory doll, it's necessary to understand the social connection with others. And though ideally an auto memory doll should already understand the essence of what it is, Violet only began to realize the necessity of it throughout her journey as one. Violet Evergarden passes on the message that we all have complicated feelings and interpret words differently, which often can lead to misunderstandings, and it's through trying to learn from each other that we grow to be more accepting. Each letter Violet composes becomes an important lesson of becoming more human. Interacting with their clients and listening to their personal stories, the role that an auto memory doll takes, helped Violet gradually gain a sense of how people express themselves, how they cope with tragedies and hardships, and how sad it can become. Even with such a big difference in our stories, I think we can relate with Violet in some way, and perhaps it was because I came from a similar boat as Violet, of having a dense trait and failing to express myself properly, that I used to think that I resonated with her more than the other characters. However, the more I immerse myself into the story, from every string of music to the expressive voices of the dialogues, I began to feel the emotions surrounding each episode and realized that I was able to connect with each individual character and feel their happiness and sadness. Each episode of Violet Evergarden became my own lessons that helped me shape my own meaning of empathy. The tragedies, everyday problems they face were all different, but they all triggered the same emotions. Even for someone who once lived an empty life can feel sentimentality, Violet also had a human heart and had her own flaws and weaknesses. She too can change. It's a beautiful and heartwarming sight about watching someone grow and understand the good in life, with the simple things that come along with it fill the emptiness. As Violet writes more letters and encounters different types of people, the more she realizes the value of words that were never needed, and gradually, different colors begin to paint the little bits and pieces of her character, guiding her to recognize her own emotions. We often are careful about the truth, and sometimes even try to deny it. Maybe because we are frightened and hesitant of opening the door to the unknown, that we start to subconsciously lie to ourselves and often distract ourselves of what is next to come. Even for someone like Violet, who was always straightforward with the truth, she was oblivious every time someone mentioned about what had happened to Major Gilbert. Violet is always seen to rush towards anyone that looked like him, or finding any clues of that mystery. She was driven by false hope, and it's ironic that the truth was the one thing that kept her from moving forward. But at the same time, it was the one thing that she realized she could not accept. All this time, she has been holding on to a thin line between accepting his death and believing that he is alive. Gilbert was someone special to Violet, but she was never able to recognize who he was to her. And as she learned to understand the meaning of his farewell, Violet realized how much Gilbert meant to her. Through the different customers that she has served and the people she has met, they all have presented a different approach of love to Violet. From parental love, rejecting love, love for a hobby, losing a loved one, unrequited love, long distance relationships. They all shaped Violet's meaning of it, and she starts to accept the love Gilbert gave her. But by the time she finally understood, it only reminded her the person who gave her those words was no longer. Episode 9 may be the most important battle for Violet. Violet's emotions were always expressed towards another. Every time she finished composing a letter for a client, she felt happy for them or sad. She had the ability to feel empathy for them, but not once did she express it for herself. When she began to have self-awareness, all different types of emotions were triggered at once. Her own past comes back to remind her of the sins she has committed, the loved ones of others that she has taken, and with the guilt that she carried and the acceptance of the white lie that was given to her, Violet lost the purpose of moving forward. Self-doubt is a lonely battle, with all the negative thoughts gaining up on you and the fear that it brings, to the point where we sometimes feel like there's no point in trying, or our existence is not needed. Violet wanted to know if she had the right to live. Through the things she has done, did she deserve to have a new goal and be able to move forward? The only way she could answer that question is to reflect on the people that she has impacted, being able to fulfill the job as an honor memory doll, and seeing how the people that she has met and touched have overcome their own tragedies, reassured her that she did something right and that her presence helped someone. And that faded away that uncertainty Violet had. The ones that she has helped also helped her with something. Even if she cannot change the past, she can accept it and change what is next to come. Empathy is the underlying answer that helped Violet move forward.